Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Brian sent me notes, and Steve, check out this story. And it's kind of a follow-up to one we did recently about your car and or your phone spying on you and then passing information along to somebody else. So from the New York Times, Kashmir Hill wrote this. Is your driving being secretly scored? Because you have a credit score. What about your driving score? Did you even know such a thing could exist? And the score would reflect things about your driving behavior, like how often you slam on the brakes, whether you speed, or whether you even check your phone while driving, or even if you drive late at night. That might be considered dangerous. So you can, of course, see your credit score, but you'll have a harder time finding out what your driving score would be. Auto insurance companies, however, can get their hands on it, and that can affect the rate you pay, and that's the big question. So for the past 2 decades, auto insurers have been trying to get people to enroll in programs that monitor your day-to-day driving so rates better reflect the actual risk. We've seen the ads. They say, put this thing in your car and let us monitor you, and then we'll base your rate partially on how you drive. So a lot of people have done that, but a lot of people also, no, I don't like the idea about being tracked while I drive, even if it will give me a lower rate. So the industry has now taken a different tack because they need more people to participate. To get data about how people drive, they're doing that to get it from automakers or from apps that you might have on your phone. Experts say most people have no idea the auto insurance industry can track them this way. And I was not really thinking about this, but as soon as it's explained to me, it makes complete sense. So you'll recall that recently, the New York Times revealed that General Motors was sharing driving behavior data with LexisNexis, and customers filed lawsuits. So the car maker ended its contract with the data broker. But data is still being collected from other automakers and also from apps. So this stuff is called telematics, or driving behavior analysis. It could be better for consumers on some level because it can personalize the rates. But of course, it seems really kind of creepy. If people have to pay more for their risky driving, they may drive more cautiously. That's true. But this will happen only if drivers are aware that their behavior is being monitored. According to the companies collecting and selling the data, consumers agree to share that information with the insurance industry. But the murky consent process, as you know, means people may not realize they're opting into these sorts of things. So you put an app on your phone, and there's this gigantic disclaimer that if you read it and scrolled through, it'll take you a day and a half. Most people just scroll to the bottom and say, yes, I accept this. A man from the nonprofit Consumer Federation of America says most consumers are put off by the idea of an insurance company riding shotgun. The smartphone apps collecting driver data may not be obvious at first glance. So Life 360 is one of these. It's used by parents to keep track of their children. I also know people who use it to keep track of each other. And you can log in and see where someone's driving, and it'll show you their little icon moving down a highway on a map. And of course, if Life 360 knows that that's happening, they could gather that data and pass it along to somebody. My Radar offers weather forecasts and also radar maps, and apparently is also tracking you. Gas Buddy helps people save on fuel costs. All of these apps have opt-in driving analysis features that rely on sensor and motion data from your phone. Now, you can turn on these features to get notifications if a family member crashes or suggestions for a more fuel-efficient route to work, for instance. Those features, though, are provided by an analytics company which was founded by Allstate in 2016 and pays for access to that data. Now, what is not made clear when people sign up for the features is that that company also analyzes how risky the driving is for insurance purposes. So on Gas Buddy, for instance, users can turn on a feature that rates the fuel efficiency of their drives, a feature powered by Arity, which is the company. A spokesperson for the company said that users agree to the privacy statement before they opt in to the drive's function. But the agreement is in small gray font under a big red button labeled Join Drives. The tiny disclosure says simply that by clicking Join Drives, you will share certain information with Arity and agree to Arity's privacy statement, which is hyperlinked. The language does not explain what Arity is or does, and by sharing certain information, that's literally telling you nothing other than we're going to share some of this. We're just not going to spell it out for you. So the company sells access to the driving scores of tens of millions of people. Auto insurance companies can request a person's individual driving score, which is delivered instantly, according to Allstate's website. The scores look at drivers' performance behind the wheel, including how often they brake suddenly, speed, or use their phones. Okay? So last month, a New Jersey mother who paid $100 annually for Life 360 to track her husband and twin 18-year-old daughters reached out to the company to ask if it was selling their driving data. An automated response crafted with the help of AI told her that Life 360 did share driving behavior data with Arity. So the woman canceled her subscription, said no one who realizes what they're doing would consent. Now, a spokesperson for Life 360 said that personally identifiable driving data for the woman and her family were never shared with an insurance company, that a Life 360 member must consent, and that the company was required to take steps with its partners to identify Life 360 as a data source when it was used to generate insurance quotes. In a statement, Gas Buddy said Arity provides users who choose to opt in with personalized offerings and enhanced services. My Radar did not respond to requests for comment. And so the article is quite lengthy and it goes through this whole thing, but there's several problems, obviously, with this. And one of them simply is, I remember when apps started showing up, and there's all these really cool apps out there. And the question, of course, is someone developed this app. The app's being used by millions of people, but how did the app maker make money off this? Well, it turns out they're making money by harvesting data through the app. And is there a consent thing in there somewhere that you may have clicked? Possibly. Would you expect that Life 360 knows how fast you're driving? Well, yes, that's one of the things it tracks. It tells you that. We're going to show you whether or not someone is speeding, right? So the My Radar app, though, it's a weather app. Why would the weather app be tracking driving? That doesn't even make any sense. And so it's kind of weird because this is not terribly obvious to consumers. This is something we call opaque, meaning that it's out there, but it's kind of hard to see. And I know that opaque means something different, but in the context of what we're talking about, that's what this is. Yes, there is a disclosure buried someplace in this gigantic form that you clicked on, probably. Is it clear as to what you're doing? No. What are they sharing? Certain data. Oh, they're not going to share the uncertain data, just the certain data? Yeah, that's why they say that. Of course they call it that because they're worried. They say, we're going to track your driving habits. We're going to report that to an insurance company. And when we report it, they're going to pay us. We're going to sell your information. And so the other weird part is that, like, for instance, I have more than one vehicle. And I have insurance through more than one company. And interestingly, the app doesn't know which car I'm driving at which time. I don't think, does it? Could someone please tell me if the My Radar app can tell somebody whether I'm driving an old Explorer or my brand new Cobra? I mean, don't get me wrong. It might be able to deduce that from how I'm, accelerating and or braking suddenly. But this is scary. And, the weird part is that in America, it's always been treated as if it ain't illegal, it's perfectly fine to do. And then when there's a gigantic uproar, they're going to hold a bunch of hearings in Washington or in the local capitals and pass some legislation that'll be fought by lobbyists for all these companies. And they're going to pass some watered down thing that says, oh, yeah, you know something? If your information is sold, they must notify you. And if you don't want it sold, you've got to write out a letter on paper and mail it to somebody and then give them 3 weeks to opt out. And it's like, this is an invasion of privacy. Now, I'll admit, and I'm perfectly aware of this, right? I carry a cell phone on me. And so obviously I know that the cell phone itself is tracking me because it's pinging off towers all the time to keep the cell phone connected to the network. I understand that. So I recognized a long time ago that I gave up a certain amount of my privacy by simply carrying the cell phone with me. But now the weird part is that you can load an app on your phone that's got nothing to do with driving. And by the way, appears to be ad supported. Because that's the other thing. I assume that a lot of these things were supported by ads. So the My Radar app has ads on it. So ads pop up on the screen while you're looking at the weather map. I always thought, well, that makes sense. That's how they make their money. No. They make their money by selling the information to the insurance companies. Those ads on the screen, they make a couple bucks, but not much. And so this is a very serious issue. And I really think that we need to have laws that talk about when somebody takes personal information about you, it must be very, very clearly disclosed to you in a way that is obvious and in a way that it's not simply, gray on black text in a really, really tiny font size that no one catches. And so the article is quite lengthy in the New York Times. However, there are people who say, but if you drive well, you'll get a better rate. I don't have a lot of faith in insurance companies. I get the impression that they'll raise your rates when they can. Are they going to lower your rates because suddenly they go, hey, this person's a better driver than we thought they were? I don't know why. I don't think that's going to happen as readily as people think it might. I understand the theory. But, I don't know. So is your driving being secretly scored? Well, if you're carrying a smartphone with apps on it, most likely it is. And did you agree to that? Sort of. You might not have known about it, but you probably clicked on the permissions saying, yeah, go ahead and do whatever you got to do to put this app on my phone. So, Brian, thanks for sending it. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this because the backlash against General Motors got them to stop doing it. Of course, there's other car companies out there. And all these modern cars with their infotainment centers, they can track you just as well as a smartphone can and pass the information along to the car company who can then sell it because, why not? We can make money. So is your driving being secretly scored? Yes. From the New York Times. Cashmere Hill and Brian. Brian sent that. Thank you very much. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Mornings would be much better if they came later in the day.